Why is it that as kids we were so much more creative and courageous, unafraid of failure? Hi, my name is Chris Wasden, and I'm the Executive Director of the Sorensen Center for Discovery and Innovation at the University of Utah. And I want to tell you about my new book, Tension, the Energy of Innovation, How Harnessing Tension Fuels Your Creative Genius. One of my earliest memories of my courageous creativity was when I was 10 years old and worked with my brothers and cousins to build a boat. In our first attempt, we took a wooden pallet and attached a half a dozen Clorox bottles just in case to make it float. We then launched it in an irrigation ditch, hopped on, and it sunk. Well, we realized it needed to be more watertight, so we tore down an old chicken coop to get some tongue and groove flooring to make what we christened the King Wasden. It was much larger, better built, looked great, but it didn't float either. That is, until my dad and uncle tied 3 18-inch diameter logs to the bottom. 30 years later, when my 8-year-old son Peter came to me with his desire to build a boat, I helped him come up with a plan to create a boat that would actually float without Clorox bottles or logs. It worked. His passion and my experience led to great success. As I helped Peter with his boat, I realized that I had lost much of my courageous creativity, that spark, that energy. What happened? There's this mind-blowing study that was done in 1968. Researchers studied 1,600 children for 25 years to assess how their creative genius changed over time. What they found was shocking, and it helped answer my questions as to where all that childhood creativity had gone. They discovered that between the ages of 3 and 5, 98% of children scored as creative geniuses. It was incredible. But by 8 to 10 years old, after just a few years of school, only a third of those children scored as creative geniuses. By 13 to 15, half the way through their public education, that number had declined to just 1 in 10. Years later, when these same children turned 25, the last assessment was completed. This final measure revealed something even more startling. Only 2% scored as creative geniuses. So what happened? We're witnessing this major loss of creativity between childhood and adulthood. Who's at fault? Is it our schools? Our jobs? In my research, I found it's because we failed to do two things. We stopped riding the innovation cycle along the entire innovation life cycle, which I talk about in my book. Let me tell you the story about Richard Drew. He was a lab assistant for the 3M company in the 1920s. One day he was visiting an auto body shop and suddenly heard screaming and cursing from the paint room. He went to check it out and found that newspaper glued on the car as masking for a two-tone paint effect had failed to come off during the cleaning. As a result, hours of work on the car were completely ruined. Witnessing this tension, this pain point, was rather serendipitous for Richard. It led him back to his lab to invent what is now known as masking tape, which, by the way, is part of a $40 billion adhesive industry. Richard harnessed tensions to fuel his creative genius and innovate a solution. Masking tape is an iconic example that came from utilizing the innovation cycle and the innovation life cycle, and which I address in my book. The energy behind both the innovation cycle and the innovation life cycle is tension. The trick to becoming a successful innovator is to understand how to harness tension in society, organization, groups, and in our own lives to fuel our creative genius so we turn one of our thousands of ideas into a successful innovation. That's what my book's about. Learn how to create and harness the tensions necessary to regain your passion and creativity by reading my self-published book, Tension, the Energy of Innovation, How Harnessing Tension Fuels Your Creative Genius. Join the movement and reclaim your creativity. Thanks for watching.